Hi there! Welcome to Get Gardening. In today's episode I'm going to sow my first seeds of the year, rescue some gladiolas that need rescuing, and show you what is growing in the garden at the moment. With all this talk of virus going on, what could be better than some gardening? So come garden with me. So I found myself with some more time on my hand now that there's this quarantine going on, and I figured what better time than to get gardening, and I decided to work in my garage to make this workbench area sort of a potting shed for me. It was basically just full of junk and things that I needed to throw away. So I cleaned it so I can start sowing some seeds here. So today I'm going to sow some Russell lupins, and I'm also going to sow some annual salvia, which is a clary sage. So the first thing that I did for my lupins is I went ahead and I used my normal soil mixture, which is 1 part peat moss, 1 part perlite, and 1 part vermiculite, and I soaked it really well. I've got a dozen pots here that I'm going to do because I saved some of the seed from my best lupins from my old house, and I want to start some of them now. I'm not going to start all of them, so what I'll do is I'll get a chopstick and I'm going to go ahead and place some holes in the center of this, which a chopstick is a very good gardening tool if you didn't know. So I basically will put 1 or 2 holes in each of the pots and then go ahead and pop them in. So since I don't have tons of seed, I'm going to do just a little bit now and save some for later. So I just did these 2 pots. Let's see, 1 in there, and I got 2 in that one. And I'll do the rest and show you that later. The way I'm going to do the salvia is I've got a pot that's like this. It's a seed sowing tray, and it's got tons of holes at the bottom. And you put this in another pot that's filled with water that I actually have right over here. Got the water in it already. And that way it soaks and it imbibes the water from down below. So this seed is one that I saw on Sarah Raven for being a good cut flower, and it's just got a brilliant purpley blue color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start some of them now and save some of them later. We're supposed to sprinkle the seeds of these lightly on the top of the compost because they need light to germinate. So I did about half. Put about half of them in here. Let me see if I can turn the camera down so you can see what I'm doing here. Here it is. So I've got a good handful of seed. And just going to sprinkle it lightly, just like you're putting salt and pepper on something. Don't want to do too many. And then basically I'm just going to place this in a tray of water and let it imbibe the water from below, soak up all of it, and that way those seeds can remain on top and have intimate contact with that soil. I'll go ahead and I'll finish these lupins, and then I need you to go with me and we're going to go rescue some gladiolas. Well, here are the gladiolas that need rescuing. You can see I have them over here in green buckets along with a canna lily. I stored all of my bulbs in sharp sand this winter, and it worked that everything survived, but I think the room that I stored these plants in must have been too warm because they started growing. I came up here about 2 weeks ago and I saw these gladiolas. They're about 2 feet tall already, which is way too tall for right now, and they were all white up to here. So I moved them into this room that has a window to start giving them some sunlight so they're not drawing too much energy from the bulb. But since they're already growing, there's no nutrients, no water, nothing in this pot except sharp sand. So I need to rescue them. I'll pot them up, give them a little bit of nutrition, and maybe I'll try experimenting and cutting some back to see if they grow and put a couple in the cold frame and keep some in the house and see how they are. So let's go ahead and rescue these, and I'll take them to the garage and we'll pot them up. Something else that I actually really wanted to show you while we're up here is about a month ago I went through a really big grapefruit kick. and I was eating grapefruits like every single day, and pomelos, other citrus fruit, and I went ahead and I took some of those seeds from the best grapefruits that I had, and I started my own plants. I don't know if it's showing up very well on here, but you can see I've got about 4 little grapefruit seeds just in like a solo cup because I didn't have a pot on hand. So these, in another week or two, I can go ahead and transplant into a bigger pot. So let's see how these grapefruit plants do. All right, let's go take care of these gladiolas. So here are the ones that I rescued. I mean, you can see they're really long, but they've got a very good, healthy root system on them. So I'm very pleased with how it worked in the sharp sand. You know, there's all this talk about virus going on. I'm quite happy that even though it's a dreary day outside, I can carry on gardening in here. Nothing better to lift your spirits than doing some gardening. You know, not all of the gladiolas did sprout, so I don't quite know why. But the ones that didn't, I went ahead and I put in a box here with sharp sand, and I'll keep these in the garage so I can plant these out in May, a little bit later in the season. But I have to say, of all the gladiolas that I planted, I think one bulb didn't make it. The rest made it. So I think storing them in sharp sand is a key, but I just need to find somewhere that's going to be a little bit colder for them next time. So to pot these up, I'm going to give them a bigger pot, and I'll plant a group of them together. So I made my own soil mixture up over here with some vermiculite and perlite and some multi-purpose to add some goodness to the plant for them. So I'll fill it up about, quarter way, and then I'll stick some of these in. They've got quite a big root system actually, so I don't know if I should maybe break some of these to encourage new shoots. Well, that's what I did. That's what I'm going to do. And then I think I'll do about half of these like this, and then with some of them I think I'll go ahead and I'll cut off the top and see if that makes a difference, because they're really tall right now. I'm going to be leggy. But the nice thing about these gladiolas were they're a beautiful yellow color, and I brought the flowers into the house. I was using these as cut flowers all year last year, and I left the leaves in the garden and they rebloomed for me. Almost all of them bloomed more than once, so I'm hopeful that they'll do that again for me this year. So just made up one pot like this. Let's see, I'll cut off 2 of them as an experiment, and I'll cut this one off too, and I'll leave 2 of them and see. So I'll go ahead and I'll finish potting these up. I'll water them, and then I'm going to take a group of them to the cold frame and see if that's warm enough for them, and the rest I'll keep in the house. So when I'm done, I'll let you see what it looks like. Well, it's supposed to be really cold this weekend, and it's supposed to start raining in about half an hour, so I figured I'd show you what was growing in the garden at the moment, getting ready to bloom. This is my hellebore, the Lenten rose. You can see that it's loaded with tight, dark pink blossoms. I'm so excited to see this open. I think next week the sun will shine, and I think it will open. So when it does, I'll have to update you guys to show you what it looks like. Let's go take a look at the walkway garden and see what's blooming over there. So at the moment I only have a couple crocuses that are blooming, and they're all tight in bud because the sun is not shining right now. You can see there's the purple ones. I actually saw some bumblebees on these purple ones the other day. Good thing there's some nectar there for them. And then in the back there you can see is a yellow one. I posted this one online. That was the first flower that I had blooming in my garden. It's the one that fell down in the front, but a new one came up to take its place. There's lots of things that are coming up in the garden that make me extremely excited. I'll show you all the different things that are starting to emerge from the ground already. Last time I showed you the garden, none of this stuff was here. There's some alliums, some tulips. You can see there's some tulips. Some mums are back there. And the poppies, there's some more alliums. The irises are growing. And in the front here, there's the poppies. They look really good. And one other thing I wanted to show you was the echinops is looking really great. Let's take a look at how that's greening up at the moment. It's hard because this plant always looks a little bit like a weed. There it is. Couldn't find it. But I love the silvery green foliage of it, but it is part of the thistle family, so you could get confused and think it's thistle and pull it out. So lots of things are emerging in the garden at the moment, and that makes me extremely happy. So hopefully next week we'll have some warmer temperatures and the sun will come out and there'll be some more flowers blooming, and I can show you what that looks like. Well, I finished potting those gladiolas up, and I figured I'm only going to take this one pot to the cold frame and risk them. The rest I'm going to keep in the house. It's going to be quite cold this weekend, so I'm going to actually close the cold frame. But before I did that, I wanted to show you my cut flower bed, which has some tulips and daffodils and hyacinths emerging. But something else is really exciting, if I can find it in the camera, is last year I put some larkspur in here, and I did not harvest the last bit of them. I wanted it to go to seed, and I was hoping that it would self-seed, and it did. There's lots of these little self-seeded larkspurs already in my cut flower bed. You can see there's some more all around. So it makes me really excited that I'm going to have some larkspurs. So let's go put these gladiolas in the cold frame, and it's getting quite cold out, so I think that's all that we are going to do for today. But thank you for joining me. See, I got the lupin seeds already in there. The sage are still, oh, see, that gladiola's even too tall for this. So I think I'm going to go ahead and close the cold frame because, like I said, it's going to be really cold outside. And hopefully we'll have some good success with these. Like I said, thanks for joining me. I hope you guys are able to get out there and get gardening.